Hello, everyone. My name is Lucian. Most of you know me from Twitter as Triangle Investor. I'm pleased to have James Sykes again in my show. James is the CEO of Baselode Energy, uranium-focused exploration company with assets in Athabasca. James, welcome. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Lucian. It's always a pleasure to talk with you.
Yeah, definitely, and with you also. It has been 2 months since we last talked. A lot of good things happened in the meantime for the company, especially with your flagship project, and that is ACKIO. Your company just released a very exciting news and update on drilling program at ACKIO with some excellent intersects with high levels of radioactivity and again, shallow one. Can you give us the details from this press release and explain how these new results fit in the whole story?
Yeah, well, we're very happy with everything that's been happening at ACKIO. We set out with the current drill program to define more of the high-grade zones and to start to figure out the extents of ACKIO. Fortunately enough, we did have some zones that were open. So Pod 7 is a very highlight zone for us, as this news release shows that we have not only extended mineralization by at least 50 meters on strike, but we've also extended mineralization at depth in Pod 7. And we're starting to see much more higher levels of radioactivity within Pod 7 than was originally viewed last year. So yeah, it's been great growth. The whole season's been absolutely excellent. We're still learning the system and putting some of the structures into play, but now with more information, we have a much stronger view, and we have a better understanding of the geological controls of the area.
Definitely, but you are only on halfway. You drilled so far 5,000 meters from 10,000 UNLs, right?
Yes. Yep, of a planned 10,000, correct.
So a lot of excitement is ahead of us, right?
I would definitely believe so. So in the next half of the drilling, we will continue to focus on extending Pod 7. That will be a high priority, as we've still got quite a distance to go.
Yeah.
But we've just taken a step back away from that at the moment to put more of the model into just to make a stronger model so that we can have better success with our drill holes. So while we're doing that work, we are going to start with the exploration phase. So stepping outside of ACKIO as a whole and just starting to look at other targets within the ACKIO area that we deemed as very highly prospective. So we'll quickly segue over to those exploration holes, and we'll come back and finish off with Pod 7 in the weeks to come.
That was originally planned as a phase 2, right?
Yes.
To go. Okay, yeah, I remember you told me that in our last interview. James, so we have a near surface high-grade mineralization. So let's bring this to more understanding what this means for a potential mine development. Basically, we have 20 or 30 meters of overburden, if I get this right, and and after that comes mineralization, and this overburden can be removed very easily, right?
Correct. Yes.
And that is a very good thing for the future MPV, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a low-cost operation to remove overburden. It's very quick, simplistic to do. It's not typical mining where you have to blast things and you have to strategize on how you'd mine these things. Removing overburden is pretty quick and easy to do, especially when you've only got 20 to 30 meters of it. Yeah, that's less than a year's work to get there. And yeah. So one of the things that I really like about ACKIO, and you've really just brought it up here, is the near surface, the shallow potential of high-grade mineralization. We are seeing quite a bit of it. Now with Pod 7 as well, we are seeing shallower mineralization there too. So the idea being that you remove all the overburden, you've got mineralization right there.
Yeah.
That you can move that easily. But what I want to put into context is that distance, that 20 to 30 meter distance. if you think of other mines in operation or planning to get into operations throughout the world, they have to mine either declines to go deeper than that, much deeper than that, hundreds of meters.
Yes.
We see that in the States. We see that in Africa. So in a simple term of, in a mining term, even though we're not miners at Baselode right now, hopefully that's the future.
Future, yeah.
We have some of the, what I would call some of the most easily accessible uranium on the planet. That after 20 to 30 meters, you've got uranium just sitting right there. There's not a lot of other companies. You can't even probably count the amount of companies on your hand that have that potential as well. So I think that's one of the things that really separates us from a lot of other deposits. It's just that, yeah, that easy exploitation, or the path towards easy exploitation of mineralization at ACKIO.
Can you tell me more about unconformity target on ACKIO?
Yep, we do have sandstone. So the sandstone, the unconformity is just, it's literally like a millimeter thin area. It represents a time break between when the basement rocks were originally there and then the sandstone came on top. So however many hundreds of years between those two events, but that's all that unconformity is, just that layer right there between the basement rocks and the sandstone. So Athabasca Basin is known for unconformity mineralization throughout. That's typically where you get your higher grades. Since we do have sandstone on ACKIO, or right to the east side of ACKIO, we think that it is highly prospective for unconformity mineralizations, especially considering that we've got two major controlling faults that host our mineralization. We have steeply oriented structures to the west, and we seem to have these shallower structures that go out to the east. Now our sandstone's over here on the east, and we think that some of these shallower structures come up and then influence the structural controls on the far eastern side of the sandstone, because we know it is structurally controlled. Everything to the west side of the sandstone is all depositional, so that's unaffected. Unaffected, yeah. But you want to find structures, you want to find where those structures meet the unconformity, and knowing that we are in a mineralized system where they all come together, hopefully that's where we're going to see a mineralization at the unconformity. Very exciting target for us. We've got a lot of geochemical evidence that supports the thesis that there could be unconformity mineralization. There doesn't have to be, and that's just one of the things with mineralization in this area. You don't have to have unconformity mineralization. You really don't. You know, we looked for it at Rough Rider back in the Hathor days. A couple little blips here and there, but nothing to write home about. Really, that it was all basement hosted mineralization. Yeah. But there are a lot of unconformity deposits that had basement roots, such as Key Lake. Key Lake was a 200 million pound deposit. It's had a lot of basement roots to it. So we think that, yes, the potential is there for unconformity mineralization. We see it in the geochemistry. We see it in other studies we've done on the core. Everything makes sense that there could be unconformity mineralization. The only way we're going to find out is if we drill, and that's not too far in the future. That's within our phase 2 that we have already started on.
Okay. At the end of the drilling season, you plan to do some Wildcat drilling, as I remember you told me. I know a few companies that had great luck with this approach and made great discoveries. How many drill holes do you plan to do in that program of Wildcat drilling, and how many meters do you know?
2 to 4 drill holes and about 500 to 1,000 meters. However, yeah, since the last time we talked, we've kind of debated if we want to do that or not. Yeah. It is still it's still an exciting target, but we'll see what the market is like. We'll see how news is reflected in the market with the current news that we've just put out, and also future news for phase 2 exploration. If the market's really loving what we're doing, then we would definitely look at doing the Wildcat. If there's no love in the marketplace, then we might just hold off on the Wildcat until the market turns better. Right now, uranium market's looking hot. anywhere from September to November, we could see some big moves in the spot market. Hopefully, fingers are crossed.
Yeah.
As some term contracts typically get signed around that time. But yeah, everything looks fantastic in the uranium market. This is definitely a buildup to a much longer and I would say stronger uranium market run that we saw in 2006, 2007. It definitely looks like a great place. So if the market isn't there for a Wildcat success story, then we can just simply hold off until the market is better and get more value out of news like that. So that's why we're kind of humming and hawing about if we want to do that now or if we just push it off to a little bit later.
Yeah, it makes sense. If I remember correctly, the budget for this drilling was 6 million, and you got 2 million in flow for potential more drilling. Are you still on the budget, or things have changed?
No, we're still on track. We're still on budget. Okay. Yeah, that's if anything, I would say that our drill costs are slightly lower than we had originally anticipated, which is always a good sign.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're fully funded with flow through dollars to see all of this drilling through. So we had originally, yeah, I guess this was 2 months ago. Hey, that was a while ago. Yeah. I don't think we'd completed that second raise then when we last talked, but we have completed another raise. It was a $5 million raise, all flow through dollars, plus a 2 million flow through that we had on top of that. Yeah, we're well capitalized to see this drill program through.
Excellent. Final question about ACKIO. You have planned to start NI 43-101 mineral resource calculation in Q4. You stick with that plan or something has changed here? I mean, when can we expect the final product to go out?
I'm hoping that we will still be able to get it done, but things have changed. So when we had originally planned to do a resource, we based it on what we had already known. But now that we have put more drill meters into extending mineralization, especially again pod 7,
yeah,
that has changed a few things for us that we may or may not get back to doing some of the original infill drill holes that we had planned on.
Yeah,
not a big deal because they were lower priority for us, so we'd rather put our money into a higher priority target. But we'll have to assess once all of this drilling is done if we've added enough mineralization, or if we've answered our questions that we had originally set out to achieve, plus the extension. If everything jives and we're comfortable with the model that is presented afterwards, yeah, then yes, we can move forward and put out a NI 43-101 mineral resource. Again, but that also falls on the expectation of the market. Does the market want to see a resource this early? Does the market even care if we put out a resource? Do we just simply wait for better times? So there's a lot of variables that are in play, especially in these current times in the marketplace. If uranium was hot and heavy and you could just if uranium was hot and heavy and investors were all into uranium, then yes, it would make sense for us to get some pounds in the ground. But if nobody's paying attention in the marketplace, then what benefit do we get by putting out a mineral resource right away? So yeah, just questions that have to be answered. I think I would feel comfortable saying that we are still on track to put out a mineral resource by the end of the year. Yes.
Okay. One final question about ACKIO. How is the weather there, and how many people are in the camp right now?
There's about 12 to 14 people at camp. It's a one drill program, and the weather is hot. Just like everywhere else in the world, we haven't had to worry about forest fires or anything. Our crews have been very good on site with things like that. For people who smoke, they're throwing their butts out on the ground. No, it's been a really good operation, very cognizant of the weather conditions that we're seeing, which everyone's morale still remains high, and I think they're all just happy seeing more uranium coming out.
And drilling machines are operating well. Everything
Oh,
okay?
Yeah, we've got a great drill crew. I can't say, nothing more than just top class.
Excellent, excellent. I would like to ask you the next question. It will be more hypothetical, but let's try to give some valuation of the company assets, especially, I mean, ACKIO. For example, if you, as a CEO of uranium exploration company, would actively looking to buy advanced project like ACKIO, how would you evaluate such project? And in your opinion, how much would this kind of project worth today? I know it's a hypothetical question, but try to answer so we can give some valuation numbers for my audience.
Unfortunately, that is something I cannot do. I can't provide any sort of valuation at all. People just have to do that on their own end. But from me looking at certain characteristics of a deposit, so if I were another company and somebody else had ACKIO, I would look at the merits that we keep coding, the shallow nature of mineralization. Independent of grade, shallow mineralization rules out. It rules. Then comes grade. So having higher grades is obviously better than lower grades, and we're seeing that at ACKIO. So right now you've got near surface, you've got shallow mineralization. We know that it does extend at depth. We know that there is a strike length to it. If you throw ACKIO in with 92E's GMZ, then you basically doubled your strike length. So we know that there are more pounds on the ground. So being able to have more than just ACKIO, which looks at growth, that's another factor. For me, I wouldn't want to just buy a deposit that is done without growth potential. Which there's even with some of our targets, there's still a lot of growth potential. Look at infrastructure in the area. Are you off in the boonies in the middle of nowhere and you have to put substantial roads in there? Now that's a consideration. Fortunately enough, again, we're in an area that is near infrastructure, power lines right nearby, the roads are right nearby, the mill, most important thing, is right nearby. I've said many times that we're never going to be able to build a mill on this project alone. So having a pre-existing mill within the area, or even mills, because there are a few mills in the area, that's a huge bonus to ACKIO as well. So if you can reduce those capital costs, that's very key. It helps with your NPV. And then when you consider open pit style of mining, especially with something so near surface, your operating costs are going to be lower. So it just everything for ACKIO, like all the variables just really click for ACKIO. That makes it look like it would be a bona fide mineable deposit. I've seen historically in the Athabasca, I've seen smaller deposits of lower grades go into production in underground scenarios. So even though those were probably back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, they were still mined. They were still mined out. They were still economic. And I definitely see ACKIO as fitting the bill for being an economic deposit. That's what we were always looking for. We were never looking for scope or size. Again, there's something about making a discovery that's exciting, very exciting, but we never wanted to make a discovery. We wanted to discover a mine, and that's a big difference. That we can move the mine forward and bring some money into the company, bring some money in for shareholders. That was our thesis, and that's what we're looking for. Projects that can do that. So after evaluating all that criteria, ACKIO fits the bill. ACKIO fits exactly what we would have been looking for since day one. Can we put a number on it? Not yet. That's the unfortunate reality. Yeah,
but shallow and high grade are the winning combination, definitely.
Yeah. So I guess if you want me to help out with numbers, I can't value ACKIO as it is. It's not doable. But I can come up with another hypothetical scenario for you. Yes. And this one's just really to build the road. Like, this is all back of the envelope. This is nothing engineers have come up with. These are not real numbers. For us to put a road into ACKIO, it's about 30 kilometers. With all the twists and turns, let's say it's 40 kilometers. Okay. 40 miles even. and build a road up in that area. Let's say it's $1 million per mine. So if we're going to build a road, it's going to be $40 million to put the road in. Let's just assume it's going to be another $1 million for the power line to go in as well. We don't even know if we need power line with all these green energies and things and so forth.
Yeah.
Or even a big one, but let's say another 40 million. So now you're up to 80 million. You need a little bit of buildings, need a little bit of equipment. Let's say that's up to about 20 million. So now you're up to $100 million. Put the road in, start mining, and have your little open pit buildings there, and then everything get trucked. So we're just looking at capital costs right now, $100 million for capital costs, and say that's Canadian too.
Yeah.
If you're able to mine 2 million pounds of uranium, and let's say the contract price is $70 a pound American, that's 140 American. With the conversion, you're up to what, 170, 180 million dollars Canadian. So now you've paid off your capex with, let's say, 80 million left over, which probably go into the operating costs for mining those 2 million pounds. So after your capex is done and your initial opex is done, you'd be operating at operating costs for the remainder with no other costs. Theoretically, that could be done within less than 12 months. There's your NPV. There's your positive NPV right away. There's your money-making scenario. Again, these are all hypothetical scenarios. So
yes, of course.
Do not take our words.
Yeah. Everything costs money, definitely. Yeah. One final question for you, James. Is there more quality land for staking in the Athabasca? I mean, is your company approached by and offered to buy some more exploration land from time to time?
We've looked. Nobody's come to us and said, hey, do you really want this ground? Well, I guess a few companies have. There are a lot of good projects out there. The Athabasca, again, I've said this many times, it's completely underexplored. I think there's a lot of good projects within the Sandstone Basin. I think there's a lot of good projects outside the Sandstone Basin. I'm just happy enough that Baselode got in when we did, early 2020, before everybody else, before a large staking rush happened, that we were able to stake the projects that we thought looked, that had the best potential. And I think with ACKIO, we've already proven that our thesis was correct. So we're currently not in the position that we're looking to divest some of our projects either. We like them. We think there's success to be had on each of the projects. So I'd like to move them ahead on our own. That might change in the future with a few more drill programs. And if we don't get success, some of our projects are quite large and would be beneficial to have partners. But yeah, we keep our eyes open of what's going on in the basin. We see what land becomes available, try to grab it if we can, if we like it, and we just keep going from there. We're not in any rush to make any deals with any companies. Like we want to get in on certain projects. We're happy advancing ACKIO on our own right now. And that's our success story as it is.
Yeah. Sorry, this is the final one. Can you give me an approximate timeline of the news coming from ACKIO? When can we expect new news coming from ACKIO?
Basically every 2 to 4 weeks until the drill program is done. But even after the drill program is done, then assays should be coming out by then too. So I'd say every 2 to 4 weeks. I think we've been doing every 4 weeks as it is. We throw in a little filler video in the middle between Cameron and I, just discussing some of the results. And we'll probably do that for this release as well in the next week or two. So yeah, we'll keep it steady. We'll keep it consistent, and we should have news coming out until October, November, even with the assays, which is prime time for us. That's typically some of the best months historically for the uranium market. And if things are positive in the uranium market, then, and everything's looking up, then having some news out that we'd be looking, having some news out that time, positive news, would be a great thing for us.
Definitely, that will be a great push. James, thank you for taking the time to come to my show. I wish you luck with the drilling on ACKIO and, of course, with your other projects. And thanks a lot.